Kia ora guys, welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max, I'm the host of the channel, and today's video is brought to you guys by Rugby News Magazine, a local New Zealand business who are all about getting that good rugby journalism into your heart and your soul. And today's video, I'm also going to be putting a bit of heart and soul to a bit of analysis on Los Pumas' massive loss against the All Blacks. I got a bit hyperbolic wondering if this could be the end of New Zealand rugby after the previous match, which ended in defeat at Christchurch of all places for the All Blacks, but nope, Los Pumas could not repeat the trick this time and they lost by a massive margin of 53-3. That was their worst losing margin against us since 1997, so that was hugely embarrassing for them. And to contrast the difference between the two teams, I'm immediately going to get into the stats right after I say a big thank you to my patrons who continue to support me. And if you're a new person, just remember to like this video and subscribe to me. So for those statistics in question, I will just mention that the All Blacks had the majority of possession in both tests out of round 3 and round 4, both of which of course were against Los Pumas. So regardless of possession, there's just all these other factors deciding tests these days, and who has the most ball does not necessarily determine the outcome of a test match in 2022, because there's far more strategic parts of rugby than that. I'll look at turnovers won first. Ethan de Groot won the All Blacks' only turnover of the first test, whereas in the second test we were able to win 4 compared to Los Pumas' 5, whereas their turnover count came down from the previous test. Their turnover count for test 1 was 7, so the gap slimmed between the two teams in the two tests. Tackle percentage wise, it did come down for both teams. The All Blacks had 92% for the first test and 84% for the second. Los Pumas had 96%, even though they attempted like more than twice as many tackles in the first. But from 96% in the first, they've gone down to 85% for the second test, whereas the ruck percentage, they beat the All Blacks in terms of that by 1 percentage point. They got 96% of their rucks in the first test, whereas the All Blacks were 95%. In the second test, both teams got 95% of rucks in which they possessed the ball. So this is especially interesting considering the lack of ruck success always seems to coincide with Ian Foster's All Blacks losing test matches. It's happened so many times before, it's not funny. It just can't be a coincidence at this point, and I've just bleated about it in pretty much every video I've made this year about the All Blacks. Line-out success in the in the first test, Cody Taylor did not have a very good match, so he got dropped after we threw at 75% in the first test. It was 100% for the second test, whereas Los Pumas missed 2 throws in both tests. So as you can see, in the second test they had 87% compared to the All Blacks 100%. The scrum success was rather interesting as well. We absolutely smashed them at scrum time in the first test, yet still lost. And the only scrum lost at all in the second test was us in the second half when Tyrell Lomax was getting a little tired. He had to come back on for the yellow-carded Fletcher Newell. I will say though, Lomax has been in fantastic form, so much so that Nepo Laulala and Ofito Ongafasi played a few more rounds on the Bunnings NPC. Speaking of the NPC, I'll give you the word from today's sponsor, Rugby News Magazine, who I talked about at the start of the video. So they sent me in these 2 magazines and stuff. They gave me a bit of a restaurant voucher and a few vitamins by the vitamin company that sponsors the All Blacks as part of their wee care package for me. And it's a great read, this magazine. Like, you guys know that I can't exactly put in a crazy amount of time to my own articles because I am a university student. This is where these guys come in. They have contributors like Kieran, Reed, Ricky, Swanell, Liam Napier, and you're just not going to get the clickbait from these guys. They're going to give you just nice, well-written stuff, and regardless of the journo's opinion, they just let the journos speak their mind, this company, which I really, really love. So I head over to Rugby News magazine and sign up to get the magazine, their monthly issues. The September issue is coming out in a few days' time, so I'm really, really looking forward to that one. I get them very, very regularly, so I'm happy to have these guys sponsor me. Righto, over to Argentina's attack. Really disappointing. Michael Cheika, he knows what he's going to get with these forwards, but I don't actually believe he's quite nails the structure he wants to give Los Pumas. Back when he was in charge of the Wallabies, he did this really, really bad impression of the 90s Wallabies that just didn't quite come off because there were so many handling errors. Los Pumas did put a big score against the Wallabies, and they did show some nice attacking plays against the Scottish in the mid-year tests, but I think they're still trying to work out what it's going to be long-term under Cheika. Cheika's a bit of a transition coach. Felipe Contepomi is going to be taking over from Cheika, and I think there's still lingering issues from the Ledesma era, perhaps, with the fact that we're seeing someone like Benjamin Urdapilleta being the third choice 10, whereas the second choice, Santiago Carreras, has been stepping in for Nicolas Sanchez, and he's more of a utility back. He's quite similar to Beauden Barrett, like he's a good passer, he's a good kicker around the field, but he doesn't quite have the game management, I don't think, yet. He's still 24, and Gloucester, as far as I can tell, use him as more of a utility back than an actual 10, so the jury, I think, is still out on whether he is a genuine 10 or not, but hey, with Sanchez out, at least they're getting somebody some minutes for that depth chart. Righto, over to the All Blacks attacks. I'm going to be showing a lot of footage for this, as there were a lot of tries scored, whereas I don't like to use footage when it's not necessary because, you know, copyright strikes. So the first try I'm going to talk about is the one that Ethan de Groot scored, and a lot of people, myself included, have been frustrated with the All Blacks tactical kicking for a long time, but many times in this test here, it worked, baby. It worked. With David Havili standing in at first receiver under advantage, Richie Mwanga is hidden behind Caleb Clark. As the All Blacks have traditionally used their 12 as a crash ball runner, Los Pumas were often found second guessing Havili in this test, with his kicking game creating a feel of unpredictability that kind of damaged Los Pumas psychologically. Thomas Lavanini and the entire front row are in front of Havili right here, so he was never going to gain meters through a carry, especially with no forwards available to bind onto him. He chip kicks up high into the area between Argentina's two defense lines. The reason they have to is due to a cover defense tactic. As we can see, there are three backs behind the main defensive line. Will Jordan is the intended recipient of the ball in this pre-rehearsed move designed by the attack coach Joe Schmidt, who used to be the head coach of Ireland, and it's kind of designed for wet weather rugby, but Will Jordan fails to catch it. It does go behind though, so Rieko Ioane is indeed able to play on. Having packed the three Pumas into a tight space, Santiago Carreras is forced to make the tackle, leaving Argentina without a key decision maker to organise their defence line at the next phase. Barrett and Jordan enter the ruck as three Pumas tight five forwards run back on side. This frees up the All Blacks' own tight five to set their attack positions and carry. The ball gets recycled at another two phases by Samasoni Taukei'aho and Rieko Ioane carrying. Sam Whitelock and Scott Barrett are literally sprinting to help retain ball, demonstrating immense ruck speed. With no Pumas in a realistic position to win the turnover and just four of their forwards standing there, Aaron Smith fires the pass away to Ethan de Groot. Geordie Barrett runs an excellent dummy line, engaging both Lavanini and Slavi, with Slavi falling for the line so hard he actually tackles Barrett off the ball. With Barrett dummying a carry and being big enough to draw the defenders, Pablo Matera, who is supposed to be marking Shannon Frizzell, who is de Groot's inside option on this occasion, is then forced to tackle de Groot from side on. The wet weather allows for de Groot to gain the momentum to cross the try line as he runs 8 meters and scores off his only carry in the entire match. I don't think there's really too much to analyse for Caleb Clark's try on the other hand. It's just beautiful rugby completely created out of an opportunistic kick. The space is created by Argentina being light in options on the backfield, while some excellent communication from the All Blacks forwards follows up. With Tyrell Lomax hiding Rieko Ioane from the defence line, Sam Cane is able to work the pass behind himself as Ioane is able to sprint towards a very confused Boffelli, creating a well-worked 2-on-1. As Ioane has brilliant speed for a centre, Juan Cruz Malia is forced to run out of his position, and with Caleb Clark remaining on the outside, he crosses the line with Boffelli hanging off him. Here, guys, is more proof that Rieko Ioane is indeed a centre, not a winger. It's pretty much the same deal when Ioane crosses the line himself, with Tomas Lavanini in the bin. As usual, Argentina fare a pushover scrum and put Matias Orlando down to pack into the scrum's open side, so they get the extra weight. This wholeheartedly backfires and 3 Pumas are forced to mark 6 All Blacks as David Havili delays the pass, drawing Matias Moroni in. Ioane is able to dot the ball down untouched by the posts. The 4th try scored by the All Blacks was in the 61st minute, and I am honestly hoping that this thing gets nominated for Try of the Year. What a beauty of a try. It all begins with a scrum about 9 metres in front of the All Blacks' own try line, and Finlay Christie passes wide to Jordie Barrett, who fakes a big clearance kick before stepping a defender and offloading to Jordan. Jordan runs around the scrum, and with 2 tight 5 forwards, Eduardo Bello and Tomas Lavanini in front of Rieko Ioane, Jordan passes outside as he is tackled. Ioane is the quickest All Black of all time. For those who don't know, he can run at 39 k's an hour, and with 2 tight 5s in front of him, they're completely unable to even lay a finger on him. It's again Matera who has to turn around and tackle, and having initially eyed up Richie Mwonga, Rieko Ioane is able to get payback on Matera for the Super Rugby final, and he runs 50 metres before a brilliant try-saving tackle by Juan Cruz Malia. Christie is there in support and passes to Kane, who makes a strong carry. Havili enters the breakdown to allow Ioane clean ball with Christie unavailable, and though he's pushed back by Malia, who's tackling again, Mwonga resets the attack as he starts a hands down the line play. This ends with Taukei'aho drawing 4 defenders in the play, something that a 12 can no longer do in the modern era. Did you hear that one, Dave Rennie? With Retallick cleaning out and Whitelock as a fringe guard, Christie gets clean ball again. Savia, Lomax and Havili draw a few defenders, and Matera, in possibly his worst test of 2021, misses the final tackle on Kane, who busts the line for a clean break. The final pass allows Jordie Barrett to score off this 2-on-1, and man oh man do Argentina pay big time for reverting to a drift defense rather than a cover defense. For the last 3 tries, there's not really much to analyze though. It's just really good rugby that's completely made up by training on your basics. Ardie Savia just gets a nice offload from Dane Coles to score. It's the kind of a similar deal for Brodie Retallick returning from injury. He's simply able to cross the line thanks to 2 teammates binding onto his carry. We then get the icing on the cake as Beauden Barrett clocks up his 42nd try at test level, making him just 8 short of being the first All Black to score 50 test tries. So guys, what's the main conclusion we can take out of this test? Michael Cheika can spark miracles, that's absolutely for sure, but consistency is a bit of a problem for a lot of the Southern Hemisphere nations right now, who just aren't really able to get wins back to back. Like the Springboks can have an absolute howler from time to time, then win 4 in a row, then lose 2 in a row. Same with the Pumas, same for the Wallabies, same for the All Blacks. I mean, Dave Rennie is the worst Wallabies coach of all time percentage wise. Ian Foster is the worst All Blacks coach since 1980. Jacques Nienaber doesn't quite have the same ability to improve team tactics that the Razzie Erasmus has, and Michael Cheika is, well, Michael Cheika, guys. Ian Foster, I've said my case about him. I've said the same thing for the NZRU board, but Look, I think the big question right now is whether the All Blacks can get the consistency because, you know, we've got whoever the coach thinks the best players are. We've got whoever the best coach is for the job in the eyes of the board and the CEO. So the question is, despite these circumstances, can the team just start getting a bit of consistency going? Because when it comes to a World Cup, I think consistency is going to be massive, especially when it comes to getting the blend between the youth and the experience. That's all I've got for you guys today. So once again, a big thank you to my patrons. Remember to go visit me over on Instagram and join my Patreon. You can also just make a one-off donation to me through the PayPal tip jar, links in the description. Remember to like this video, comment your thoughts on the video and subscribe to me because I'm going to keep trying to grow this channel to create entertaining content for you guys. Thank you very much, guys. God bless, God loves you, and thank you so much for your support. I'll see you later.